Over 12,000 North Korean soldiers are now stationed on Russian soil, a dramatic and unprecedented display of military cooperation that has sent shockwaves through the international community. This bold move marks the most significant shift in Russia-North Korea relations since the Cold War, sparking heated debates and growing global concerns. Recent updates from the Russia-Ukraine war reveal that these North Korean troops are not just symbolic reinforcements, they are reportedly engaged in active combat operations on key front lines. Such a deployment blatantly defies multiple UN sanctions, raising critical questions about the implications for international law, the ethics of exploiting foreign soldiers, and the broader risks to global security. Is Russia's recruitment of North Korean troops a desperate measure for survival, or a calculated step towards redefining modern alliances in warfare? Let's find out in this video. The White House confirmed in October 2023 the presence of 3,000 North Korean troops in Russia, marking a significant escalation in the Russia and North Korea relationship. This initial deployment has rapidly expanded, with the Pentagon now reporting 10,000 North Korean soldiers stationed in Russia's Kursk Oblast. South Korea's National Intelligence Service has revealed that North Korea has pledged to deploy a substantial military force to assist Russia, comprising 4 brigades with a total of 12,000 personnel. This contingent includes 500 officers and even 3 high-ranking generals, underscoring the seriousness of North Korea's commitment to this alliance. The structure of the deployment is highly specialized, reflecting a focus on advanced military capabilities. Reports indicate that these troops are being organized into units trained for specific operations. According to the Pentagon, these forces are currently undergoing rigorous preparation in a range of strategic areas, including infantry tactics designed for close combat scenarios, the deployment and operation of unmanned aerial vehicles for reconnaissance and potential strikes, precision artillery techniques, and the mastery of trench warfare, a brutal and resource-intensive combat style reminiscent of earlier major conflicts. This comprehensive training regimen not only highlights the strategic depth of the collaboration between North Korea and Russia, but also raises critical concerns about the evolving nature of their military engagement. The deployment of North Korean troops to Russia has unfolded in a carefully orchestrated sequence over time. In early October 2023, the initial wave of 1,500 special forces arrived. By mid-October 2023, another 1,500 troops had joined, further bolstering their presence. As the operation advanced, the total number of deployed troops reached 10,000 by December 2023. The full deployment of 12,000 personnel is expected to be completed by December 2024, solidifying this significant military partnership. Recent developments in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war highlight the strategic deployment of North Korean forces across several key locations within Russian territory. These troops have been strategically positioned to maximize their operational effectiveness while supporting Russian military efforts against Ukraine. The primary deployment zone is in Kursk Oblast, where the largest concentration of North Korean personnel is stationed. This region, situated near Ukraine's eastern border, is a critical area for frontline operations and reflects the importance of these forces in reinforcing Russian military objectives. Additionally, newly arrived North Korean troops initially undergo training in the far eastern federal district. This region serves as a staging ground for intensive preparation before deployment to combat zones. Within this district, specific training facilities have been identified in Primorsky Krai, Khabarovsk Krai, Amur Oblast, and the Republic of Buryatia. The Pentagon has confirmed that these troops are being prepared for combat or combat support operations. This deployment represents the largest-scale North Korean military involvement in foreign conflicts since the Korean War of the 1950s. The presence of these forces in Kursk Oblast particularly highlights Russia's challenges in maintaining adequate troop levels for their military operations. Russian military facilities have become training grounds for North Korea's elite soldiers as the Russia and North Korea relationship enters a new phase of military cooperation. The Pentagon confirms these forces are receiving comprehensive combat preparation while facing significant operational challenges. North Korean troops have been equipped with Russian uniforms and identification documents. The soldiers, drawn from the country's elite 11th Corps, known as the Storm Corps, represent some of North Korea's most capable special operations forces. These troops are specially selected for their infiltration and assassination capabilities, possessing more advanced military training than typical Russian conscripts. Russian forces are conducting intensive training programs focusing on infantry tactics and movements, unmanned aerial vehicle operations, artillery tactical procedures, trench clearing operations, and basic combat maneuvers. The training takes place primarily in western Kursk, where Russian instructors have noted the high morale and physical strength of North Korean soldiers. However, military analysts express concern about their lack of modern warfare experience, as North Korea has not engaged in ground combat for decades. Communication barriers present a significant obstacle in the Russia-Ukraine war update today. The Russian command has implemented a translation system with one Korean language translator assigned per 30 North Korean troops. This limited translation capacity has already led to serious incidents, including friendly fire incidents against Russian equipment, difficulties in coordinating combat operations, and challenges in tactical communication. Military experts emphasize that conducting joint operations with forces speaking different languages creates substantial operational risks. Despite historical ties between Russia and North Korea, few citizens from either nation speak both languages, complicating battlefield coordination. These communication challenges are further intensified by differences in military doctrine and operational procedures between the two forces. The integration of North Korean troops into Russian units faces additional hurdles due to cultural differences and varying approaches to warfare. While these soldiers demonstrate strong discipline and cohesion, their unfamiliarity with modern combat systems and Russian military protocols presents ongoing challenges for effective integration. The devastating human toll of North Korean military involvement in Russia's war effort has become increasingly apparent, with alarming casualty rates and concerning reports of psychological trauma among deployed troops. Recent battlefield reports reveal staggering losses among North Korean forces. In just 1 week, more than 1,000 North Korean soldiers were killed or wounded in Russia's Kursk region. The casualties represent nearly 10% of the total North Korean deployment. Ukrainian President Zelensky reported that preliminary data indicates over 3,000 North Korean soldiers have been killed and wounded in the Kursk region alone. Incidents of desertion among North Korean troops stationed in Russia have begun to surface, raising questions about the morale and cohesion of these forces. Reports indicate that 18 North Korean soldiers stationed near the Russia-Ukraine border abandoned their posts, a striking development given the strict discipline typically associated with North Korean military personnel. In addition to these desertions, there have been instances where soldiers attempted to locate their Russian commanders, possibly seeking clarification or support amidst the harsh conditions. However, these attempts reportedly ended in their detention, highlighting the challenges and tensions within the ranks of this unconventional military arrangement. These incidents not only shed light on potential cracks in the North Korean contingent, but also underscore the complexities of integrating foreign troops into a conflict as intense and unpredictable as the Russia-Ukraine war. The psychological strain on North Korean soldiers deployed to Russia has escalated to alarming levels, with military health experts warning of severe mental health repercussions. These troops are enduring extreme isolation, stationed far from their homeland in an unfamiliar and hostile environment. Cut off from their families and the support systems they are accustomed to, they face a profound sense of detachment that exacerbates their vulnerability. Language barriers further compound the stress, creating significant challenges in communication with Russian commanders and fellow troops. This lack of effective dialogue not only hampers coordination but also leaves these soldiers feeling alienated and unsupported in critical moments. The situation is worsened by their exposure to intense combat scenarios for which many of them have little to no prior experience, plunging them into high-stress conditions that heighten their susceptibility to psychological trauma. David Maxwell, a former U.S. Special Forces colonel, has commented on the unique psychological plight of these soldiers. They will suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, he explained, adding, "But they have been so thoroughly indoctrinated that I don't think you will see it manifest in ways that it does in the rest of the world." His observation underscores the dual burden faced by these troops while enduring the mental scars of warfare. Their strict indoctrination may suppress outward expressions of distress, potentially leading to unrecognized and untreated trauma. This troubling scenario raises critical concerns about the long-term well-being of these soldiers and the ethical implications of their deployment in such harsh and unfamiliar circumstances. The deepening alliance between Russia and North Korea has sent shockwaves through North Korean society, leaving devastating effects on the families of deployed soldiers. These families face an overwhelming array of challenges imposed by the regime's desire to maintain strict domestic control. Forced into isolation, they are forbidden from openly expressing grief or dissent, living in constant fear of punishment should their loved ones desert or surrender in Russia. Adding to their anguish, families are often left in the dark about the fate of their relatives, with limited or no information about casualties or battlefield conditions. North Korean mothers who sent their children to Russia must feel unimaginable pain, remarked Tim Jeong-na, a North Korean defector and former first lieutenant. Her statement captures the unique heartache faced by families in a country with one of the world's lowest birth rates. Most North Korean families have only 1 or 2 children, making the loss or injury of a soldier an almost unbearable blow to the family unit. The Kim regime, acutely aware of the potential for unrest, has implemented a series of stringent measures to quell dissatisfaction. Distressed family members are isolated to prevent them from spreading their grief or dissent to others. The regime exerts tight control over information about casualties, often presenting fallen soldiers as national heroes in a bid to maintain public loyalty. Communication between families is heavily restricted, cutting them off from forming support networks that might challenge state narratives. Military analysts warn that these measures, while suppressive, may only be temporary fixes to a growing problem. The mounting death toll, combined with the psychological trauma endured by soldiers and the anguish of family separation, is creating conditions that could threaten the regime's grip on its population. As casualties rise and the true human cost of the Russia-North Korea alliance becomes clearer, the risk of social instability in North Korea could escalate dramatically, posing an unprecedented challenge to Kim Jong-un's regime. The deployment of North Korean troops to Russia has triggered an international outcry over multiple violations of United Nations sanctions and international law. The Pentagon has confirmed that North Korea has dispatched approximately 10,000 soldiers to Russia's Far Eastern Federal District, an action that directly contravenes several UN Security Council resolutions. The troop deployment violates multiple UN Security Council resolutions, specifically Resolution 1718, 2006, prohibits military cooperation. Resolution 1874, 2009, bans arms transfers. Resolution 2270, 2016, forbids military training and advisors. The UN Security Council Sanctions Committee, comprising all 15 council members including Russia, is responsible for examining these violations. However, Russia's recent veto of the UN Panel of Experts mandate has significantly weakened enforcement capabilities. The deepening relationship between Russia and North Korea has moved into a legally precarious realm, drawing sharp criticism from international legal experts. The provision of North Korean troops to support Russia's military operations not only raises serious ethical questions but also constitutes a blatant violation of international law, exacerbating tensions on the global stage. One of the most significant legal issues at play is the deployment's direct breach of the prohibition on the use of force enshrined in the United Nations Charter. By supplying combat troops to Russia, North Korea actively undermines international principles designed to maintain global peace and security. This act flagrantly violates existing peace agreements and further escalates hostilities in the ongoing conflict, which many experts already view as an affront to international norms. Moreover, the involvement of North Korean forces has sparked concerns over potential war crimes. Legal analysts warn that any actions taken by these troops that contravene the rules of armed conflict, such as targeting civilians, mistreatment of prisoners of war, or other violations of humanitarian law, could implicate North Korea as directly responsible. Russia, as the beneficiary of these forces and their operational commander, risks being held complicit in these violations, compounding its existing legal and moral liabilities. The deployment also highlights issues of state responsibility, a cornerstone of international law. North Korea is fully accountable for the actions of its deployed forces, while Russia's role in facilitating and utilizing these troops places it in direct violation of UN-imposed sanctions. This collusion between the two nations has not only led to breaches of international law, but has also positioned both countries to face further punitive measures from the international community. As the situation unfolds, the legal ramifications of this alliance will likely grow. With each passing day, the risk of additional international sanctions, war crime allegations, and further diplomatic isolation increases, underscoring the profound legal and geopolitical consequences of this controversial military partnership. The Russia-Ukraine war update today reveals widespread international condemnation. The United States, South Korea, Britain, and Ukraine have jointly declared the deployment a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Key international responses include: the U.S. Defense Secretary has demanded immediate withdrawal of North Korean forces, while South Korea's defense minister described the troops as mercenaries disguised in Russian uniforms. The European Union has emphasized that this deployment represents a dangerous expansion of the conflict. Japan's representative to the UN warned that this advancement of military cooperation poses an imminent threat to the entire globe. Meanwhile, Ukraine has documented evidence of North Korean troops participating in assaults on Ukrainian positions in the Kursk region. The United Nations Security Council has expressed particular concern about potential technology transfers between Russia and North Korea, which could further violate existing sanctions. Despite international pressure, Russia maintains that its military interaction with North Korea does not violate international law, while continuing to strengthen bilateral ties through mutual defense agreements. The integration of North Korean forces into Russian military operations faces significant operational hurdles, revealing deep-rooted challenges in the expanding Russia and North Korea relationship. Military analysts highlight three critical areas of concern as these forces attempt to function cohesively on the battlefield. The command hierarchy governing North Korean forces deployed in Russia reflects a blend of North Korean and Russian leadership, designed to coordinate operations amid complex battlefield conditions. At the helm of the North Korean contingent is Colonel General Kim Yong-bok, who oversees the operations of the elite XI Corps, also known as the Storm Corps. Supporting him is Colonel General Ri Chang-ho, serving as deputy chief within the strategic command structure, while Major General Sin Kum-chil directs the main operational activities. On the tactical level, senior colonels lead smaller, specialized units to execute missions on the ground. Despite the shared Soviet-era military heritage of both nations, significant challenges have emerged in the integration of their forces. North Korean artillery systems have shown some compatibility with Russian platforms, thanks to their common evolutionary roots in Soviet designs. However, logistical and operational issues remain. Variability in ammunition quality, such as inconsistent gunpowder charges, has adversely affected the accuracy and reliability of artillery fire. Moreover, unreliable shell performance, including instances of rounds detonating prematurely within gun barrels, poses a severe safety risk to personnel. Compounding these challenges is the critical shortage of 122 mm shells, which threatens to weaken Russia's artillery firepower, a cornerstone of its military strategy. The situation is further complicated by communication barriers that hinder effective coordination between the Allied forces. Language differences have created operational inefficiencies, with Russian commanders forced to rely on a single translator for every 30 North Korean soldiers, a ratio that slows the flow of critical battlefield information. North Korean troops have struggled to grasp even basic Russian military terminology, further impeding cohesive operations. These difficulties have already led to grave consequences. One such incident involved a tragic case of friendly fire, where North Korean forces mistakenly engaged Russian vehicles, resulting in casualties. Military experts emphasize that these communication difficulties complicate command and control, especially if Russia attempts to integrate the North Koreans into lower echelons. The Russian military's attempt to teach approximately 100 key military terms to North Korean soldiers has shown limited success. The Pentagon reports that while Russian forces provide uniforms and equipment to North Korean troops, the integration challenges persist. Combat operations require precise, constant communication that extends beyond senior officers pointing in a direction and telling North Koreans to attack. These operational hurdles significantly impact battlefield effectiveness, as North Korean forces lack exposure to modern warfare tactics and technologies that have evolved during the current conflict. Recent intercepted communications reveal growing frustration among Russian commanders regarding coordination with their North Korean counterparts. The situation highlights the complexities of integrating forces without a shared training history, common doctrine, or established operational standards. Emerging reports from the frontlines reveal disturbing patterns in the exploitation of North Korean forces, as the Russia and North Korea relationship takes an increasingly controversial turn. South Korea's national defense minister has officially labeled these troops as cannon fodder mercenaries, highlighting serious ethical concerns about their deployment. The Russian military's treatment of North Korean soldiers has raised significant alarm among international observers. Recent intelligence reports indicate that approximately 3,000 North Korean troops have become casualties in the Kursk region alone. The troops are being deployed in human wave attacks against Ukrainian positions, with commanders showing little regard for their survival. The financial arrangement between Russia and North Korea reveals a complex system of exploitation. While Russia has agreed to pay approximately $2,000 per month for each North Korean soldier, the majority of these wages are confiscated by the North Korean government. The soldiers receive only a small fraction of their earned compensation. Russian compensation includes monthly monetary payments totaling over $200 million annually, food aid, including rice shipments to North Korea, and military equipment and training access. The Russia-Ukraine war update today exposes multiple human rights abuses against North Korean troops. Military analysts have documented several concerning practices. Intelligence reports reveal that soldiers are being issued forged Russian identification documents and uniforms to conceal their true identity. This practice not only violates international law but also puts captured soldiers at risk of severe consequences. The most disturbing aspect involves the treatment of potential deserters. North Korean soldiers are reportedly taking their own lives rather than face capture, likely out of fear of reprisal against their families back in North Korea. These troops operate under extreme psychological pressure, knowing their families face potential persecution if they surrender or desert. The soldiers, primarily recruited from poor families, face a cruel paradox. While the opportunity to serve abroad offers potential financial benefits, it comes with an extraordinarily high risk of death or injury. The North Korean regime exploits this vulnerability, using the promise of Workers' Party membership and elevated social status for families of the deceased as incentives for deployment. Military experts note that these troops receive minimal protection during combat operations, with Russian commanders viewing them as expendable assets rather than valuable allies. The situation has deteriorated to the point where Ukrainian forces report North Korean soldiers being executed by their commanders after failed assaults. Recent battlefield assessments reveal significant shifts in Russian military operations as North Korean forces integrate into combat zones. The deployment marks a crucial development in the Russia and North Korea relationship, fundamentally altering the dynamics of ground operations. Russian forces have experienced substantial losses in their North Korean contingent, with at least 100 troops killed and another 1,000 injured in combat against Ukrainian forces in the Kursk region. The casualties stem primarily from inexperience with drone warfare, unfamiliarity with open-terrain combat, and limited understanding of modern battlefield tactics. The Storm Corps, despite being North Korea's elite unit, has demonstrated mixed results in actual combat scenarios. Military analysts note that while these troops show high morale, they lack an understanding of contemporary warfare. In response to the growing need for additional personnel and the integration of North Korean forces, the Russian military has made significant adjustments to its operational strategies. Reports indicate that Russia is currently recruiting between 25,000 and 30,000 new soldiers each month to maintain the necessary tempo of operations on the front lines. This large influx of recruits, combined with the deployment of North Korean troops, has prompted several operational changes aimed at optimizing the overall effectiveness of the military campaign. One of the most notable modifications is in the command structure, where North Korean officers have been integrated into Russian military units. This adjustment allows for a more seamless coordination between the two forces and ensures that the North Korean contingent can operate under a unified command structure. Despite this integration, the North Korean forces remain under the supervision of their leadership while working alongside their Russian counterparts. In terms of combat roles, the primary function of the North Korean troops has been their deployment in defensive positions. By assigning these forces to more static roles, Russian commanders can free up their more experienced units, such as Marines and paratroopers, to focus on offensive operations. This strategic shift allows Russian forces to maintain the pressure on Ukrainian defenses while ensuring that vital defensive positions are manned by reliable, albeit less experienced, personnel. Beyond combat roles, North Korean troops have also been utilized in various support functions, particularly in engineering and construction duties. These support roles are essential in maintaining infrastructure and fortifying defensive lines, which are critical to the ongoing war effort. The integration of North Korean forces into these non-combat positions provides much-needed assistance without overstretching Russia's available manpower. Together, these changes reflect a comprehensive strategy by Russia to manage its resources more effectively and to maximize the contributions of both its forces and the newly arrived North Korean soldiers. The adaptation of North Korean troops to specific operational roles, including defensive and support functions, allows Russia to keep its core units focused on offensive strategies, ensuring a more balanced and efficient military approach in the ongoing conflict. The Russian command has adopted a distinctive approach to deploying North Korean forces, with Western assessments estimating Russian casualties at approximately 610,000. The North Korean contingent serves as a crucial manpower supplement. The Pentagon confirms that these forces are being prepared for combat operations, combat support functions, defensive position maintenance, and frontline reinforcement. The Russia-Ukraine war update today indicates that Russian commanders are positioning North Korean troops strategically in the Kursk region. This deployment pattern suggests a dual-purpose strategy, maintaining defensive positions while freeing up experienced Russian units for offensive operations. Military analysts note that while 11,000 troops may not significantly impact such an attritional war, where Russia suffers more than 1,000 casualties daily, this could represent just the initial phase. Intelligence reports suggest North Korea might potentially deploy up to 60,000 or even 100,000 troops through rotation. The effectiveness of this strategy remains under scrutiny, as language barriers and unfamiliarity with Russian systems complicate combat operations. However, some experts argue that compared to hastily mobilized Russian recruits, North Korean troops arrive with basic training and organizational structure intact. Russian military planners are particularly focused on utilizing these forces to repel Ukrainian advances in the Kursk Oblast while maintaining offensive momentum in other sectors. This approach allows the Russian command to address multiple operational priorities without compromising their broader strategic objectives. The NATO alliance has officially confirmed North Korean troop presence in Russia's Kursk region, marking an unprecedented shift in global security dynamics. This development has triggered rapid responses from international powers, fundamentally altering the strategic landscape of the Russia and North Korea relationship. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has characterized the deployment of North Korean troops to Russia as a significant escalation and a dangerous expansion of the ongoing conflict, highlighting the growing concerns within the alliance regarding Russia's increasingly aggressive tactics. The North Korean involvement represents a shift like the war, further complicating an already volatile situation. In response, NATO has taken several key steps to address the potential security risks posed by this new development. First, NATO has ramped up surveillance efforts, closely monitoring troop movements and military activity to track the integration of North Korean forces into Russian operations. This heightened surveillance is essential for understanding the full scope of the situation and for preemptively addressing any security threats that may arise as a result of the expanded alliance between Russia and North Korea. Additionally, NATO is enhancing its coordination with Indo-Pacific partners, recognizing the broader geopolitical implications of North Korean involvement. Given the alliance's global security concerns, strengthening ties with countries in the Indo-Pacific region is crucial in countering the potential ripple effects of this escalation, especially regarding regional stability and security. NATO has also reinforced its deterrence measures in Eastern Europe, focusing on bolstering the defense capabilities of member states near the conflict zones. The alliance's presence and military preparedness in the region are being intensified, with an emphasis on ensuring that NATO's eastern flank remains secure amidst the evolving threats posed by Russia's actions. NATO estimates that Russian forces have sustained approximately 600,000 casualties throughout the conflict, a staggering number that has contributed to Russia's decision to seek external support from North Korea. This dire situation has sparked the controversial partnership, which in turn has raised alarm bells within NATO about the potential escalation of violence and the weakening of international norms. In light of these developments, NATO has initiated a comprehensive review of its strategic posture, assessing both the immediate and long-term implications of the Russia-North Korea alliance on global peace and security. The alliance's heightened vigilance and the strengthening of its defense capabilities reflect NATO's commitment to responding decisively to these threats, while also ensuring that international law and global stability are upheld. As the situation continues to unfold, NATO's response will likely evolve to address the shifting dynamics of the conflict. South Korea's government has implemented a multifaceted response to the crisis. President Yoon Suk-yeol has summoned the Russian ambassador, demanding the immediate withdrawal of North Korean troops. Intelligence reports indicate approximately 1,500 North Korean special forces have already arrived in Russia. South Korea's response strategy to the deployment of North Korean troops in Russia has been multifaceted and proactive. One key element has been diplomatic protests, with South Korea consistently demanding the withdrawal of the troops. This action is ongoing as part of their efforts to address the situation through diplomatic channels. Alongside this, South Korea has been actively consulting with NATO, aiming to coordinate strategically on the international front to counter the growing threat. These consultations remain active as part of a broader effort to ensure regional and global security. In terms of military readiness, South Korea has enhanced its deterrence measures, taking steps to strengthen its defense capabilities in response to the evolving security environment. This measure has already been implemented, reflecting South Korea's commitment to safeguarding its national security. Additionally, South Korea continues to share intelligence, monitoring the situation closely to assess any changes that could impact its security posture. This intelligence sharing initiative is ongoing, ensuring that South Korea remains informed and prepared for any further developments. South Korean officials warn that North Korean troops could gain valuable combat experience and performance data for weapons, including drones and ballistic missiles, potentially threatening South Korea's security. The Yoon administration has characterized this deployment as a grave security threat. The United States has implemented significant policy changes in response to the Russia-Ukraine war update today. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has labeled North Korea's presence as very, very serious, with ramifications for both Europe and Asia. The Pentagon confirms that Russia is recruiting 25,000 to 30,000 new soldiers monthly, highlighting the strategic importance of the North Korean deployment. U.S. policy modifications include enhanced intelligence sharing with allies, increased military coordination with South Korea, strengthened sanctions enforcement, and expanded regional security partnerships. The deployment has catalyzed a fundamental change in both the geopolitical landscape of Northeast Asia and the broader international order. Military analysts suggest this cooperation could lead to North Korea acquiring advanced military technologies, potentially destabilizing the Korean peninsula. China's position in this evolving crisis remains complex. Beijing initially responded to U.S. announcements about North Korean troops by stating it was not aware of the situation. However, China's significant economic influence over both Russia and North Korea positions it as a potential mediator. The international community faces mounting concerns about technology transfers between Russia and North Korea. Intelligence reports suggest Moscow may be providing Pyongyang with advanced military capabilities, including intercontinental ballistic missile technology, satellite technology, and submarine-based ballistic missile systems. This exchange could fundamentally reshape security dynamics in the Indo-Pacific region. Western intelligence services are particularly focused on understanding what Kim Jong-un receives in return for contributing troops. The arrangement appears to extend beyond mere financial compensation, potentially including significant military technology transfers that could alter the balance of power in East Asia. The deployment has prompted South Korea to consider providing lethal aid to Ukraine, marking a potential shift in Seoul's traditional policy of providing only humanitarian assistance. This consideration reflects growing concerns about the long-term implications of North Korean troops gaining combat experience in modern warfare. Military experts warn that this cooperation between Russia and North Korea could trigger increased South Korean support for Ukraine, potentially counterbalancing North Korean contributions. The situation has created a complex web of international relationships, with some analysts suggesting it could lead to a military crisis or armed conflict on the Korean peninsula. North Korea's deployment of 12,000 troops to Russia marks a dangerous shift in global military dynamics. These soldiers face severe exploitation, high casualty rates, and significant psychological trauma while their families endure harsh restrictions back home. Russian commanders use North Korean forces as expendable assets, primarily in defensive positions, allowing experienced Russian units to focus on offensive operations. This unprecedented military cooperation between Russia and North Korea demands global attention and action. What do you think this means for the future of global security? Do you think this partnership could lead to a wider conflict? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you find this video useful, please like the video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos.